Good afternoon. My name is Kayla Peters. I am the Outreach and Event Coordinator here at the Kensington Falls Church. On behalf of the Kensington, we thank you for sharing your time with us this afternoon. The Kensington Falls Church is an assisted living and memory care residence located in the heart of Falls Church, Virginia. Our enhanced programs enable us to deliver care beyond what the traditional senior living community can deliver. We are open for tours by appointment, so please visit our website. We look forward to listening to your needs. Now, let us review a few housekeeping rules for this afternoon. We are using Zoom webinar format, so your videos and microphones will be off. There will be slides shown during the presentation, and some will be interactive. So we ask you that you please use the raise hand feature so we can unmute you to answer questions and participate. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A feature to submit them, which we will read to our speaker at the end. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker for this afternoon. We are fortunate to be hearing from certified recreational therapist, Melissa Long. Melissa is also a certified dementia practitioner, as well as a licensed BCAT practitioner. She provides goal-oriented therapy to individuals with multiple diagnoses and delivers individualized services based on each person's past, present, future interests, and lifestyle. Customizing a treatment plan that encompasses social, cognitive, physical, and leisure needs is vital to a successful program. Melissa is a graduate of the University of Southern Maine with a BS in Therapeutic Recreation and Leisure Studies and a minor in Health Studies. Melissa has been providing care to older adults for 17 plus years. Please join me in welcoming Melissa Long.
Hi, how is everyone today? Hope you're staying dry. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can get started. I wanted to make this a little interactive because I want to hear your stories too and help you through the process that you're going to have with your loved ones. So let's go ahead and start here. All right, so we're looking at ways to bring joy and purpose when visiting your loved one in assisted living and memory care. So what may we experience? Seeing your loved ones, what are some positive things? Some examples, you guys can give me some positive things that you might see when you visit. Okay, so things can be rewarding, they can be joyful, they can laugh, have a conversation that you've been looking forward to. There's also the other side of the picture. Joy can be tempered with, there can be stressors. So what are some stressors that you face when you have those visits?
We did get in a chat from the first one. I believe the mute option might not be working. So for the first one, we got one saying seeing the smile on their faces when they see us and then seeing them engaged.
Perfect. Those are great examples. And what are some stressors that, you know, make your visit harder when you're visiting someone?
Yes, please feel free to send your answers in the chat and we can read them for you.
That's perfect. Thank you guys for working with us.
Someone said not in the present, residents wanting to come home with them, thinking they're lonely, forgetting where they live, not knowing their mood for the day.
Yeah, that's perfect. Those are all great responses. So sadness, frustration, uncertainty, those all tie in with that. And those are exactly what we want to try and work through so that we can still have a visit, right? So with these feelings, it may keep you from wanting to even visit. And we don't want that to be the case. We want it to be a meaningful experience. So why do visits matter? Memory care specialists from the Alzheimer's Association to the Mayo Clinic state that visits from friends and family can be therapeutic and beneficial to individuals with neurocognitive disease such as Alzheimer's. According to experts, these visits can help improve their sense of belonging, emotional state, and self-esteem. And I think this really ties into what we've all been facing through COVID and how we've seen the change because of the isolation and, you know, having to stay separate to stay safe. And the care staff have done a wonderful job, and all the communities really trying to make up for the family not being there, whether it's through video visits or outside visits or being their loved one, and holding their hand and giving them the hug. But it really does make a difference to give them those visits. Why being the helper is key. So I like to sometimes, depending on where in the journey my clients are, have a discussion with them about what I'm presenting, because I love to hear their perspective. And so I had talked to a couple of my clients about this topic, and they were really excited about it. They said, "This is great that you're doing that." And I said, "Well, why?" And they said, "Because we have a hard time when people expect us to answer things." Because as they say, and I use this a lot with my clients, everything they have is up here, right? That they want to say to us, but it doesn't always come out here. And so that stresses them. So they were excited that I was doing this. So I just want you to have the perspective that, I actually have talked to, my clients and patients about some of the topics I talk about, because I want to know their perspective on it. And, if they give me any tips to tell you guys. So the Alzheimer's organization says, since interactions with loved ones can be beneficial to the well-being of someone with dementia, it's important to find ways to get around the anxiety and discover opportunities to make visits meaningful and memorable, no matter what stage of dementia your loved one is in. And this can be hard. So we're going to work on this. So if you can put in the chat for me some struggles that you face when you're visiting someone, that would be great.
I have non-responsiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, anything else coming through? Their loved ones thinking some of their family members are still alive.
Right.
Lack of things to talk about. Yep, running out of things to say. Mm-hmm.
All right, so those are all perfect examples, and that's exactly what everyone. Oh, I saw some more pop up. I'll let you read those.
Yeah. Wanting to come home, or other family not visiting.
Yeah.
Extreme repetition.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so another one.
Has trouble finding words.
Yeah.
Ruminate. Mm-hmm.
So let's look at some of these tips that can help you get through these struggles, because this is one of the key parts here. So introduce yourself and your relationship every time. They may not remember you, and this is a way to take the stress off of them. Instead of saying, "Do you remember me?" you could say instead, "Hello, Grandma, it's your son, John. I am so glad to see you." And then that way they don't have to think about who you are or how you're related. And that takes all the pressure off. I know it may sound weird to go, "Hi, Mom, it's your daughter, Lisa," but taking that stress off of them can make the visit that much easier for you. The next tip is keep things simple. You don't need to overthink your visit with activities, tasks, or events. The best gift you can give your loved one is time and attention. So think about the abilities that remain and tap into them to draw out the person inside and create a meaningful, joyful moment. And we're going to go into detail towards the end about specific activities and things that you can do. Next, find a quiet and comfortable place. This is so important for me. So with dementia, you're hypersensitive to sounds and senses, whether that's temperature or someone brushing against you. So they get distracted really easily. So I'm a huge proponent of going into a quiet space, whether it's a conference room, their apartment, a separate room in the house. That way it's just you two in the moment and you can focus. Too many people in the room can be overstimulating. So you learn that as you sit and interact and talk with somebody, where they're the most comfortable and what is too much for them. You really have to pay attention to those nonverbal cues. Be present and accept the situation as it unfolds. And this can be really, really hard. So living in the moment and not having expectations can make the experience more rewarding. For instance, just watch the birds or sing a song that can lead to joy. So sometimes when I have clients that are just having a rough moment, I just break off what we're doing and start singing a song. And most people know either Sunday school songs or nursery rhymes. And probably 8% of the time they'll chime in with me. Music's the last thing to go with your abilities with dementia. So it is a key intervention to use at any time with somebody. So that may be your way to redirect them so they don't think about the conversation they're having or the temperature that's gone up or the person that just walked by, and it will re-get them into the moment. Go with the flow. Individuals with dementia have good days and bad days. Don't we all? We're human, right? It's possible that what worked the last visit may not work for this visit, but be flexible and adapt your approach to how your loved one reacts and feels in the moment. And that can mean simplifying what you did last time or just doing something different because it's not what they want to do that day. Be understanding. Your loved one may react in unexpected or unpleasant ways. Try not to take it personally. Your loved one may be tired, stressed, or be having an unpleasant reaction to something. Remember that just being there is what's important. Be present. And I know this is so hard in this day and age with technology because we have our phones glued to us, but maintain eye contact with your loved ones so they know you're attentive and listening. React in appropriate ways, both verbally and non-verbally, to show that you are paying attention and are interested in what they have to say. And I can tell you from personal experience, I'll have a message pop up on my watch and I'll go to look and they're like, oh, is time up? Do you need to leave? And they call me out on it. So I think it's really important. We all just kind of push all that stuff to the side as much as we can and be there in that moment, because these moments will get shorter because they can only handle doing things for so long as the disease progresses. Treat them with respect. Although your loved one may be acting a little childish in their manner, remember that they are adults. Don't talk down to them. Use simple, short sentences and be sure to speak clearly, but be sure to signal your respect and care for them. So this is really important when they're having a bad moment. Instead of say, you don't act like that, say, tell me what's bothering you. How can I help you? And I've had plenty of times where I have someone in the stage where they're in the salad language and what they're saying makes no sense at all. But when I use that term with them, tell me how you're feeling. And they'll go on and just talk, and none of it makes sense. But then their demeanor changes. They just needed to be acknowledged and share what was bothering them. And it relieved the tension. So even though it may not make sense to us, they just may need to get something off their chest and to give them that respect and time to do that. Keep your visits short. By visiting your loved ones for short moments of time, you're more likely to have a meaningful and beneficial interaction. You can do several short visits in one day, or just be sure to gauge your loved one's reactions and adjust your expectations accordingly. I know sometimes, in this area, we drive a long time to get somewhere and you're like, oh, I want to spend at least 2 hours with mom. You may need to break it up a little bit, do 45 minutes, go get a snack, bring the snack back for mom, and then do another short visit. So they have some time to break because their brains do get tired faster. And so, it's just like if we're, working out, we have to take breaks too, right? So we kind of need to look at it in that perspective a little bit. How can you decide what to do with your loved one? So the easiest things to look at are personal interests, simple activities, and pull from their long-term memory. Those are the things as they start going backwards in time, they're going to remember more versus the current. And they love to share stories. So that's always a good key to use. Why structure the visits towards your loved one and not just do something generic? Because personalization is key. It is proven to decrease stress and improve their quality of life. You want to provide them with something that pertains to their needs, ability, and interest. If I have someone who loves to garden and I bring out a pottery wheel, it's probably not going to go very successful. So we need to keep that in perspective. They may not be interested in an activity today, but be interested in it tomorrow. So my key is try and try again. Never stop. And And you also learn, because they're going backwards in time, you may actually find some things they like to do that you didn't know they like to do. I've had children tell me before, oh, my mom's never liked doing that. And then I do it with them and they're complete joy over doing whatever that activity may be. And it just may be something they did in the past that they hadn't done in front of their kids. So it doesn't hurt to try new things once in a while as well. So how can you decide what to do with your loved one? Give me an example of something you would like to do, but you're not sure would work.
Okay. I'll wait for a few responses here.
Yeah.
Talk about my family. Listen to an audiobook. Draw. Look at photos. Reading letters from friends.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with some of those. So we want to simplify them. That's going to help make them more usable. And what are your expectations with using these items? And that's really important to know. So let's say with drawing, depending on where they are in their journey, drawing is actually pretty complicated. And so do you need to find a way to simplify it where it's a very simple picture and you put it next to the blank sheet of paper and they copy it? Or do you need to not have them draw and just have them color instead? Or is it a vision issue? And do we need a magnifying glass? So those are the pieces you kind of have to play with to do something like that. Kayla, I believe one of them was talk about family.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm kind of curious why you think that one may not work for whoever wrote that. If you don't mind explaining that.
She did mention here that their loved one forgets the names.
Okay.
And just forgets some days.
Okay, perfect. So one of the biggest things I love to have family get, and there's tons of companies that do it, is to make a photo book. And you put one picture on the page and you put their names and what they're doing. Keep it super simple. So if the picture of two people on a boat, you can put Sue and John fishing and the date, and use those when talking about family. And then that way they have something to refer back to visually. It's something very simple. The names are already there, so they don't have to think about and process because it's in there, it's stuck, they can't get it. You know, the best way I can explain dementia and Alzheimer's is that our brain's kind of like a block of Swiss cheese. And when you cut a block of Swiss cheese, the holes change every slice, right? So things move around and certain parts of the brain will work differently every day. And so if we can take away some of those stressors for them, it's going to make things easier for that. Kayla, what were some other ones?
Some other ones were FaceTime friends.
Okay. So do they understand the technology, or are they not remembering those friends because they've regressed back to a farther date in time? And so those are some things to figure out. There's actually a cool device, and I can get the information to Kayla, that someone invented where you can actually plug in a regular phone receiver, which older adults are more familiar with versus cell phones, and plug it right into your cell phone. So while there's FaceTime, they can talk on a regular phone so that it feels normal to them. So I can get her that link. And that may be, they're just, you know, going farther back in time where there wasn't that technology, and it might just be easier if something they're more familiar with. I'm seeing more things are getting typed, so.
Yes. see. Yep, she said that would be good. She has very few friends left, but that would be good.
Okay, awesome. And there was a couple other examples. I should have wrote them down. I apologize.
No worries. Let's see. We went through look at photos. Reading letters from friends was another one.
Okay.
Um,
and I think that one ties in kind of the same. They may not remember the person anymore. And it doesn't have, the letter doesn't have to be about the person. You don't have to worry about the name. You could even use it, change it up on them and say, my friend wrote this letter and I thought you might enjoy it, and play it off that way so they can still have the letter and read it from whoever sent it, but they don't have to feel like they have to know the person. And that takes that stress away.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then another one was listen to an audiobook.
Yes. So what I've done with audiobooks, because I'm a huge proponent of them, and there's been lots of people that love to listen to them. It's the amount of time. It's just like following a plot on a TV drama. As you get to a certain part in your journey, it's too much to process cognitively, to remember. So going to short stories, going to read out loud poems. You can find a ton of those on YouTube. You can still get them from the library as well. And then it's a short condensed period of time instead of a long drawn out time where they've got to remember from beginning to end. So that's the easy way to simplify that one. Okay. So choosing activities. Activities can change as they progress in their journey, and being observant to the stressors will help you have a positive outcome. Understand, though we strive for great visits, it won't always happen, and we're human and we can have bad days. So keep their skills in mind. Pay special attention to what they enjoy. Consider if the person begins activities without direction. Be aware of physical problems. Focus on enjoyment, not achievement. So a good example of that is I had a client who used to play dominoes. And so we were playing dominoes and she just started lining all the dominoes in a row. It wasn't the game at all, but she had the biggest grin on her face and was so excited that she had done that. And I congratulated her. And so kind of figuring out where those moments are now. I had a client, his wife said it best to me because she knew the positive interactions were getting fewer and fewer, and he lived at home. He really wanted to help her with dishes. He had always done that as a chore. And so he was helping her, and she would find spoons in the freezer and bowls in the pantry and, plates in the oven. And when she'd find them, she'd just giggle and she'd say, I'm so glad he's my helper, and try and flip the moment around instead of being stressed out about it. So kind of figuring out what, the enjoyment's going to be from it. Encourage involvement in daily living. So like doing dishes, folding napkins. If your mom was a housewife and that was what she did, in her 20s and 30s, setting the table and doing laundry, that can be the activity you guys do when you visit. If that's what she enjoyed doing, there's nothing wrong with doing stuff like that. Look for relate activities to work life. I've had clients who've been nurses, and we'll put together a fake patient chart and have them audit it. We'll get together a logbook for accountants and have them do math for us. So we find ways to bring that old piece back in so they feel like they have a sense of purpose, because that's the biggest thing they're all losing. They're losing their sense of purpose. And if we can somehow give that back, that really does make a difference. Look for favorites. So when they do have a favorite thing, I just had a client who she thought she was being funny with me last week and said she wanted me to bring her a cat. And I said, I can actually bring you a cat. And I had a robotic cat at home and I brought it and she fell in love with it. And she's not in the part of her journey where doll therapy would necessarily be appropriate. She was very aware it was a robot, but she wanted one. So her daughter bought her one. But that's a favorite to her. She used to have cats. It gave her a sense of comfort. Consider the time of day. That can make a huge factor in your visit. I have a client right now where her spouse is visiting her in the afternoon. She says she's always tired. And I said, why don't you switch it to the morning? Because when I see her in the morning, she's wide awake. So she's going to switch that up. So play with the times a little bit. The team here is wonderful, and they'll be more than happy to tell you what time of day works best for your loved one. And adjusting activities to the disease stage. So, mom used to play bridge. Well, she can't do that anymore because it's a lot of processing, but she can still sort cards by color, suit. She can match them. I even taken a deck of cards and sliced them in half and have them match the pieces. So you can change up by using the same item, but just changing what you do with it as they progress through the disease process. So your approach, if you notice a person's attention span waning or frustration levels increasing, it's likely time to end or modify the activity. So helping get the activity started, if you put something in front of them and they don't do it. A lot of them, as the disease progresses, they need cueing. And so saying, hey, mom, does this puzzle piece go here? I don't know if I have it right. Is a good way to start it. Let them be your helper. Offer support and supervision if needed. Concentrate on the process and not the result. Be flexible. You may get 2 puzzle pieces in and she's had enough and you go find something else to do. Break activities into simple, easy follow steps. So, instead of saying, mom, we're going to get ready to go to lunch and I need you to get on your coat, your hat, your purse, and your shoes. That's a lot to remember. So if you say, mom, I'm going to grab your coat and hat, do you mind getting on your shoes? And then if that's too complicated, say, mom, can you get on your shoes? Once they're on, mom, can you grab your purse? So figure out what works for them. But if you see it's not working, try and simplify. Assist with difficult parts in the task. If they're really struggling with one piece of it, say, may I help you? Don't do it for them, but ask if you can be their helper. Let the individual know he or she is needed, giving them that sense of purpose. Make that connection with them. And you don't necessarily have to talk to somebody. It can just be holding their hand. Even if you hold your mom's hand and sing a song that she likes and just sit there in the moment, that's making a connection. Don't criticize or correct the person, saying, don't you remember, that's not right. You know how to do this. That does not help them. And it's definitely not going to help your visit. Encourage self-expression. I had a gentleman who was a general in the Army who was very prim and proper, but for some reason, as his disease progressed, he wanted to wear red socks and only red socks. And we bought him all red socks and he was happier than a clam. So it may not be what you're used to, but it was what worked for him at the time. Involve the person through the conversation. Talking around them, about them, doesn't go well. And it can cause them to react and have behaviors because they're frustrated with you doing that. Even if they can't give the right answer, having them feel included is key. Substitute an activity for a behavior. So if they're having a really good moment, continue doing that activity. If they're not, replace the activity or try later. Sometimes they just don't want to do it. I had a client this morning who was just not having it. And I went for 30 minutes and said, you know what? I think today's not our day. Let's give it a try next week. And so we both stepped away from it because I knew it was not benefiting him. And that's my whole goal, is to benefit them. So here are some activity examples. This is yarn. And that looks really simple, right? They're rolling it. So what they're doing is making yarn balls. And this is a really easy one to do with someone who used to knit or crochet, because they all had to wrap yarn balls. So they may not be able to use the crocheting or knitting needles anymore, but anyone can roll a ball of yarn. And having them do that for you instead of the knitting and crocheting. There is also a knitting machine that you wind a crank. And so they could still get knitting done. They have both a children's version and a more expensive adult version, but the children's version works fine, that you could do as well. So they could still have something come out of the knitting. Balloons are my best friend. For some reason, everyone loves to bop balloons around to music and laugh and giggle. I do it with staff. I do it with patients. It doesn't make a difference. It's simple. You can put it in your pocket. So it's a really easy activity to do with them, and it works on, you know, their range of motion and their balance and all that kind of stuff as well. Cards we talked about earlier. So, you know, they might not be able to play bridge anymore, but they might be able to do solitaire. They might not be able to do solitaire, but they can sort them by suits. They may not be able to sort them by suits, but they can sort them by color. If you can't do that, you can always cut the cards in half and have them match the two halves together, and, you know, only put, you know, 5 sets in front of them, so it's not overwhelming. Music, as I said, is so key, and there's so many different ways to adapt to music, whether it's just singing, it's having them still play an instrument that they know how to play, or, you know, I had a patient who used to perform at Juilliard. She went to school there, and she wouldn't play anymore because she was not at her elite level anymore. But when I told her I knew how to play 2 songs on the piano and I tried to play them, she corrected me. She felt purposeful again, and then she started playing. So you just got to be creative in it. I'm seeing things are being typed. Should I?
Someone said that was a great idea.
Okay. And then the photo book I was talking about, these have been great. I've had so many families do these. And it's one picture with the description, and you can make so many of these. The book can be about the whole family. It can be just about one trip. It can be about one moment in time in their life, you know, just high school. And they're not that expensive. You can find coupon codes online. And then what's nice is it's not the direct photos. So if they get torn, if they get wet, if they get lost, you don't actually lose the photos. So that is, you know, really beneficial. So now that you guys have learned about some activities and some ways to do things, what are some activities you might do now with your loved one?
Wait for some answers. Play music. From their iPad. Playing cards. All of those.
Okay.
Do a small puzzle.
Okay.
Yep.
So read a story, a poem, some examples, take a walk, sing, do a puzzle, look at pictures, color, toss a balloon or ball. Those are just some great ways to interact with them. And a lot of these things you can get really inexpensive at the Dollar Tree. They have small puzzles there. You definitely want to, with the disease process with dementia, stay below probably 30 pieces, unless they're in the very beginning stages, which you can find that. There's also a bunch of great ones online. So, you know, try and keep that piece simple, and maybe thicker pieces so they can grip them if they have arthritis. Those are just kind of some things to think of. Is there some others that popped up, Kayla?
Yep. Someone said do their loved one's nails.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yep. Someone said have their family send them pictures so that she could create a photo book to share with her loved one.
That would be great. You know, or as simple, you bring some flowers from the grocery store and you guys arrange it in a vase together. So they have flowers in their room.
Wow.
So some key communication techniques, the 30-second rule. This is my favorite. And I was so excited when I relearned it, because I feel like, you know, even when I go to trainings, there's always something I need to be reminded of. So the 30-second rule is, if you ask a question and say, hey, would you like to go to lunch today? A lot of times their answer's right here, but it takes a while to get it out. So you need to give them 30 seconds. If they don't respond, re-ask it in a simpler form. Are you hungry? Give them 30 seconds, start it over. They don't respond and say, would you like a sandwich? And then it's a yes or no answer. So that's really important to always start that 30 seconds over when you re-ask a question, because their processing is slower. One-step questions are so much easier. They don't have to think about multiple things and make sure they put them in the right order. So that's always important. Yes or no questions, of course. And be honest with them. You know, they're adults. They may not be able to process everything, but there's simple things that they can process, and it makes them still feel valued and still treated like an adult. And humor, so important. When you're having those rough moments, we all know it, as people, when we're having those rough moments, to have someone laugh or tell a joke. I tell really bad dad jokes to some of my patients just to get them to laugh. Those are always good. But I was having a bad day the other day when I brought that cat to my client, and my boss later asked me if my day had gotten better. And I said, actually, yes, because the client was laughing with the cat and it was a moment of joy, and that turned my day around. So those things can not only help them, but us at the same time. So do you guys have any questions for me?
I do have a question. For someone who might try these things for the first time, or implement some of these for the first time, might be scary or uncomfortable. How would you suggest maybe preparing or going about it?
Don't overthink it. And there's wonderful engagement and activity staff at the Kensington that I'm sure if you're struggling with it, they would be happy to give you tips, but just keep it simple. It's not about, are they going to complete something? It's about, are they enjoying it? And I think that's really important to remember. I can be playing checkers with somebody and they start moving my pieces. I don't correct them. They're having fun.
Let's see. How can a visit include watching TV and make it meaningful?
So I would do sitcoms, probably like I Love Lucy, something, like that's from that era, that's 30 minutes. And, if there's a commercial break, or you can pause it and say, oh my gosh, did you just see her eat all that chocolate in the factory? Of course, the famous I Love Lucy scene. And ask them about it and say, have you ever done something like that? And see what they say. Just pause it for a second. So that gives their brain time to rest and not follow the whole thing too. Right.
And we do have a question that I'll answer. Does Kensington staff get dementia training? Yes, all of our staff is dementia trained, from sales to housekeeping. Everyone is trained. We use Teepa Snow's positive approach to care. So yes, everybody is dementia trained in the building. Someone said leaving is tough, leaving a visit.
Yeah, it is tough. And it depends on how the person's reacting. Sometimes it's helpful if the person gets stressed because you're leaving, having the staff help you with that and bring them to do something, or plan your visit so that you're coming right before an activity that they would do, or it's mealtime, so that you can walk them to the dining room or walk them to that activity, or have it planned with a staff member that they're going to come in and say, hey, Miss Smith, I need your help getting this ready with me. Do you mind helping me? And you can say, Mom, I'm going to take care of a couple things. I'll see you later. I love you. And so you can get help with that because it is hard. And so those are just some ways to help with that.
Right. And then I have one, what to do when the resident is more advanced and can't really find any or many words or do many tasks.
Yeah, so that comes down to sensory. So that's a lot of touching. Hand massages are great. Using robotic cats, dogs, doll therapy, giving them a baby doll to hold. They have textured quilts that you can get, because usually when they're at that stage, the activity quilts are a little too much. They might have all these different things on them, but just a quilt with 9 to 12 squares that are all a different texture of fabric. They love to just touch things, and they'll rub their hands across it. I've used bubbles before, but with COVID, no blowing, so you need to get a bubble gun. But they like bubbles as well. Playing with Play-Doh, just so they have the feeling.
Right. I'll wait for a few more. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to include them in the chat where most of them are coming through. I'll wait for a little bit longer. Okay. Someone is asking about the frequency of visits, you know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of played by ear on how your loved one does.
Mm-hmm.
You do want them to build a bond with the staff that's here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important too. So you don't want to over visit, because then they can't get to know the staff and work with them and be part of the activities. I think really working with the activity department and finding out what your loved one likes to go to, and making, you getting a hold of the activity calendar going, okay, I'm not going to come during these times, so that she can meet peers and staff is important. But if they're not stressed and they want you there, that's okay. But if they're stressed when you're leaving, minimizing visits isn't a bad idea. Because you don't want to stress them out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then someone asked if you visit assisted living communities.
I do. I actually have a client I see here at this Kensington. I have a couple at the other Kensington. I go to homes too. So I do go out, and my information's on the screen. So you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I usually do an initial assessment to make sure they're appropriate to be seen. And then we can talk further about how often and so forth.
Right. Great. Well, as you can see, Melissa has put all of her information up on the screen for anybody who wants to take it. I do have, she was nice enough to put together a handout for us, which is a summary of a little bit of the tips and tricks that she went over and spoke about today. So I'm going to share that in the chat with everybody so that you have access to it. And let me see, I should be opening it. Okay. Perfect. So, let me see. I have to redo it one more time. Okay. But yes, I will send this in the chat for everybody. Melissa will leave this slide up for a few minutes as well. And I just want to thank Melissa so much for being here with us today, sharing her insight and knowledge on these topics that I feel, a lot of people, have questions on, and sometimes can be a taboo topic. So thank you again so much, Melissa.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to hearing from you again soon, hopefully.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your, I guess now weekend, we can say.
Okay, perfect. And now everyone should be able to view the handout. If you are still here with us, I just sent the handout for you. I will also be emailing everybody as well a recording of the video and an attachment of this handout so you guys have it again. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us this afternoon, and we'll be back soon.